Watch. In the previous episode, a young man disappeared. His car was found with strange clues. The only witness lied. The investigation hit a dead end, and 2 weeks later, his aunt died suddenly. A heart attack. Just a tragic coincidence caused by stress, or so everyone thought. The family started going through her house. The deeper they dug, the more they realized how little they really knew this woman. They found piles of letters from serial killers in prisons, books on forensic psychiatry, a stash of tens of thousands of dollars in cash. But her greatest secret was hidden in the basement, something buried under heaps of junk, carefully sealed in concrete. Did what was sealed in that basement have anything to do with the missing nephew? Or had this quiet relative taken a secret to the grave, something even darker than his disappearance? And the biggest question was, whose remains would they find? Detective John Daly was assigned lead investigator on the case of Zeb Quinn's disappearance on January 5, 2000. The 43-year-old officer had over 20 years of experience in Asheville police, specializing in missing persons cases. Daly held a criminology degree from the University of North Carolina and had advanced training in modern investigative methods at the FBI Academy. In his career, he had successfully solved more than 100 missing persons cases. His method relied on systematic collection and analysis of physical evidence, thorough witness statement checks, and building a timeline of events. He emphasized uncovering contradictions in testimonies and inconsistencies between words and facts. In Zeb Quinn's case, Daly faced a peculiar situation. The only witness to Zeb's last hours gave conflicting statements, and the physical evidence did not form a coherent picture. Daly took a comprehensive approach, including forensic examinations, telecommunications data analysis, alibi verification, and psychological assessment of witness behavior. One of the investigative priorities was checking the alibis of everyone who had contact with Zeb on the day he vanished: colleagues, friends, and acquaintances. Teresa Ferguson, a restaurant manager, confirmed she was at work until 10 p.m. on January 2nd. Her alibi was backed by video footage and witness statements from other employees. Zeb's friends, Jason Owens and Michael Harrison, were at home with their families at the time. Their alibis were confirmed by relative statements and phone call records. Zeb's family was cleared as suspects based on their alibis and lack of motive. Rowan Davis was the only person whose alibi could not be independently verified. His account of how he got home after allegedly dropping Zeb off contained irreconcilable contradictions. Analysis of mobile phone data showed Zeb's phone last pinged at 9:47 p.m. near Highway 191, matching the direction of the presumed trip. The police ordered a thorough forensic examination of all physical evidence linked to Zeb Quinn's disappearance. Fingerprint analysis of the vehicle found prints belonging to Zeb, Rowan Davis, and several unidentified individuals. Unknown prints were entered into the AFIS database for comparison with known offenders. DNA analysis from hairs found in the car matched Zeb and 2 unknown people. One sample came from a woman, consistent with lipstick found on the steering wheel. Fiber analysis on fibers from the hospital parking lot identified them as coming from a high-quality dark blue wool coat not belonging to Zeb or anyone in his social circle. Ballistic tests ruled out the use of firearms in the car. Chemical analysis found no traces of drugs or poisons inside the vehicle. Glass fragment analysis confirmed the windshield had been shattered from inside the car by multiple heavy blunt force strikes, stronger than human capability. Detective Daly launched an extensive search operation involving police reinforcements, rescue teams, and volunteers. Ground searches covered a 30-mile radius around Zeb's last known location. Forest areas, bodies of water, abandoned buildings, and other possible hiding spots were examined. Divers searched lakes and rivers in the presumed route of Zeb and Rowan. Special attention was given to water bodies near roads where accidents might occur. Police used service dogs to track Zeb's scent, starting from the restaurant to a point on Highway 191 where the trail stopped. Helicopters patrolled large areas, photographing potential key locations from above. Thermal imaging equipment scanned for possible burial sites. Despite the massive search efforts, no trace of Zeb Quinn or his belongings were found. Detective Daly analyzed possible motives for a crime against Zeb to guide the investigation. Robbery was unlikely, as Zeb did not carry valuables or large sums of money. His restaurant salary was modest, and the car held no significant value. Personal conflicts were also ruled out. Family, friends, and colleagues unanimously described Zeb as a peaceful person without enemies or serious relationship troubles. The drug theory was dismissed based on testimonies from people who knew Zeb, all confirming his negative attitude toward drugs and alcohol. Sexual crime was considered a possible motive, given the victim's young age and circumstances involving being lured to an isolated place. Accidental crime or a crime of opportunity was also considered, especially if Zeb had given a ride to a stranger. Most likely, it appeared Zeb was the victim of a premeditated crime in which Rowan Davis played the role of accomplice or bait. The police brought in criminal psychologist Dr. Sarah Wilson to create a psychological profile of the possible offender and analyze witness behavior. The circumstances pointed to an organized type of criminal with prior planning. Using the victim's vehicle to divert attention and choosing a hospital as the car's abandonment site showed calculated moves. The shattered windshield from inside could indicate a struggle staged to mislead investigators. The presence of female cosmetics in the car suggested a woman's involvement, possibly as an accomplice or decoy. Psychological analysis of Rowan Davis's behavior revealed signs of deception, evasion of responsibility, and possible crime involvement. His constantly changing statements indicated knowledge of facts he was hiding. Dr. Wilson's profile described the primary suspect as an organized individual between 25 and 40 years old, a local familiar with the area, possibly with a criminal history. Given the possibility of crossing state lines, Detective Daly sought help from federal law enforcement. The FBI provided access to national databases to check the unidentified fingerprints and DNA found in Zeb's car. The National Crime Information Center, NCIC, showed no similar missing person cases with matching circumstances in other states. Crime pattern analysis uncovered some similar disappearances of young people in the southeastern states, but found no direct connection to Zeb's case. Federal experts confirmed the local forensic lab's conclusions about the car damage and abandonment circumstances. The FBI also supplied profilers who supported the theory of an organized crime involving multiple perpetrators. This completes the first substantial section. If this style and form are suitable, please send the next part for adaptation. Here is the adapted text for narration in true crime style, with numbers written out and corrections made, preserving the original meaning, ready for English voiceover. In the previous part, a young man disappeared. His car was found with strange clues. The only witness lied. The investigation was at a dead end, and 2 weeks later, his aunt died. A heart attack. Just a tragic coincidence caused by stress. At least that's what everyone thought. The family began sorting through her house, and the deeper they delved into her belongings, the more they realized. They barely knew this woman. Piles of letters from serial killers in prison, books on forensic psychiatry, a stash of tens of thousands of dollars in cash. But the biggest secret was waiting in the basement. Something hidden behind a pile of junk, carefully sealed in concrete. Did what was buried in the basement have any connection to the missing nephew? Or had this quiet relative taken to the grave a secret even darker than his disappearance? And the biggest question was, whose remains would they find? Detective John Daly was appointed lead investigator on Zeb Quinn's disappearance case on January 5, 2000. The 43-year-old officer had 20 years of experience with the Asheville police and specialized in missing persons cases. Daly held a criminology degree from the University of North Carolina and underwent additional training on modern investigative methods at the FBI Academy. During his career, he successfully solved over 100 missing persons cases. Daly's methodology was based on the systematic collection and analysis of physical evidence, careful verification of witness statements, and building a timeline of events. He placed special emphasis on identifying contradictions in testimonies and discrepancies between words and facts. In Zeb Quinn's case, Daly faced an unusual situation. The only witness to the last hours of the missing man gave conflicting testimony, and the physical evidence did not form a logical picture. The detective applied a comprehensive approach, including forensic examination, telecommunications, data analysis, alibi verification, and psychological assessment of witness behavior. One of the investigative priorities was checking the alibis of everyone who had contact with Zeb on the day he disappeared, including co-workers, friends, and acquaintances. Teresa Ferguson, a restaurant manager, confirmed her presence at work until 10 p.m. on January 2nd. Her alibi was supported by video footage and eyewitness accounts. Zeb's friends Jason Owens and Michael Harrison were home with their families at the stated time. Their alibis were verified through family testimonies and phone records. Zeb's family was also excluded from suspicion based on their alibis and lack of motive. Rowan Davis was the only person whose alibi could not be independently confirmed. His account of how he got home after supposedly dropping Zeb off contained irreconcilable contradictions. Mobile phone data analysis showed the last recorded signal from Zeb's phone at 9:47 p.m. near Highway 191, which matched the direction of the presumed trip. Police ordered a comprehensive forensic examination of all physical evidence related to Zeb Quinn's disappearance. Fingerprint analysis of the car revealed prints belonging to Zeb, Rowan Davis, and several unidentified individuals. Unknown prints were entered into the AFIS database to search for matches with previously registered criminals. DNA analysis of hairs found in the car confirmed the presence of genetic material from Zeb and two unidentified individuals. One sample belonged to a woman, consistent with lipstick found on the steering wheel. Fiber analysis of threads found in the hospital parking lot identified them as from a high-quality dark blue wool coat, clothing not consistent with Zeb's wardrobe or social circle. Ballistic examination ruled out the use of firearms in the car. Chemical analysis did not detect narcotics or poisons inside the vehicle. Glass shard analysis confirmed the windshield was shattered from inside the car by multiple blows with a blunt object stronger than normal human capacity. Detective Daly organized a large-scale search operation involving additional police resources, rescue teams, and volunteers. Ground searches covered a 30-mile radius from Zeb's last known location. Forest areas, bodies of water, abandoned buildings, and other places where traces of the missing man might be found were inspected. Divers searched lakes and rivers in the suspected route of Zeb and Rowan. Special attention was paid to water bodies near roads where an accident might have occurred. Police used tracking dogs to follow Zeb's scent, starting from the restaurant to a certain point on Highway 191 where the trail ended. Helicopters patrolled vast areas, photographing potentially important locations from above. Thermal imaging equipment was used to search for possible burial sites. Despite the large-scale operation, no trace of Zeb Quinn or his belongings was found. Detective Daly analyzed possible motives for a crime against Zeb to determine the investigation's direction. Robbery as a motive seemed unlikely because Zeb did not carry expensive items or large amounts of money. His salary at the restaurant was modest, and the car was not valuable. Personal conflicts were also excluded. Family, friends, and colleagues unanimously described Zeb as a peaceful person without enemies or serious relationship problems. The drug theory was rejected based on testimonies from people who knew Zeb and his negative attitude towards drugs and alcohol. Sexual crime was considered a possible motive, especially given the victim's young age and the circumstances of being lured to an isolated place. Accidental crime or crime of opportunity was also among the theories, especially if Zeb had given a ride to a stranger. The most likely scenario was that Zeb was the victim of a premeditated crime in which Rowan Davis played the role of accomplice or bait. The police enlisted criminal psychologist Dr. Sarah Wilson for a psychological profile of the potential offender and analysis of witness behavior. The disappearance's circumstances pointed to an organized type of offender with prior planning. The use of the victim's car to distract attention and the choice of the hospital as the place where the car was left suggested calculation. The broken windshield from inside the car could indicate a staged fight to create a false impression. The presence of female cosmetics in the car suggested a woman's involvement, possibly as an accomplice or lure. Psychological analysis of Rowan Davis revealed signs of deception, evasion of responsibility, and possible involvement in the crime. His constantly changing testimony indicated knowledge of facts he was hiding. Dr. Wilson's profile pointed to an organized primary suspect between 25 and 40 years old, a local familiar with the area, possibly with a criminal past. Due to the possibility of crossing state lines, Detective Daly reached out to federal law enforcement. The FBI provided access to national databases to check the unidentified fingerprints and DNA samples found in Zeb's car. National Crime Information Center records showed no similar disappearances with matching circumstances in other states. Crime pattern analysis revealed several similar disappearances of young people in the southeastern states, but no direct links to Zeb's case. Federal experts confirmed local forensic lab conclusions regarding the car's damage and circumstances of abandonment. The FBI also provided profilers who supported the theory of organized crime involving several individuals. Detective Daly faced several significant obstacles during the investigation of Zeb Quinn's case. The absence of a crime scene created serious difficulties in collecting physical evidence. The car found near the hospital was a secondary location, while the primary crime scene remained unknown. The main witness's unwillingness to cooperate deprived the investigation of crucial information about Zeb's last hours. Rowan's contradictory statements raised more questions than answers. The lack of a body greatly complicated the legal aspects of the case. Without proof of death, it was difficult to qualify the crime and press charges. The limited technology of the year 2000 prevented the use of modern digital forensic methods, such as GPS data analysis and detailed mobile phone examination. Few witnesses and the absence of surveillance cameras in the rural area created an information vacuum regarding critical events. Despite these challenges, Detective Daly continued the investigation, hoping for new evidence or witnesses that could shed light on Zeb Quinn's fate. In the first days after Zeb's disappearance, his parents, Robert and Denise Quinn, organized their own search efforts, not relying solely on the police. They understood time was working against them, and every hour of delay reduced the chances of finding their son alive. Denise took an indefinite leave from work to devote herself fully to the search. Robert continued to work, but spent all his free time organizing search activities and coordinating volunteers. The parents set up an information center in their home, installing additional phone lines to receive calls from potential witnesses. They created detailed maps of the area, marking places already searched and territories needing further investigation. The family spent personal savings to print thousands of flyers with Zeb's photo and information about his disappearance. The flyers were distributed within a 100-mile radius of Asheville, including neighboring states. Denise visited crowded places daily, shopping centers, gas stations, fast food restaurants, showing her son's photo and asking about possible sightings. The family also established a hotline with an answering machine so people could leave information at any time, even if they were reluctant to speak directly. The disappearance of an 18-year-old student with no criminal past sparked sympathy in the local community. Hundreds of Asheville residents and nearby towns responded to the family's call for help in the search. The church attended by the Quinn family organized a volunteer coordination center. Parishioners not only helped with physical searches, but also provided logistical support, prepared food for search groups, offered transportation, and spread information. Local businesses donated resources for the search operation. Store owners supplied free printing materials for flyers. Restaurants fed the volunteers. Cellular companies provided additional phone lines. Students from local colleges formed search groups, systematically combing forests, abandoned buildings, and other places where Zeb or signs of him might be. Hunters and hikers familiar with the terrain joined the search in difficult mountainous areas. Their navigation skills proved especially valuable. By the end of January, more than 500 volunteers worked in coordinated groups under experienced leaders. The Quinn family actively cooperated with the media to draw public attention to Zeb's disappearance. Denise regularly gave interviews to local TV stations and newspapers, appealing for help in the search. Zeb's story was featured on America's Most Wanted, a popular show specializing in unsolved crimes. The program aired nationwide, attracting national attention to the case. The family also utilized emerging internet resources to spread information. In 2000, the internet was not widespread, but enthusiasts created web pages about Zeb on various forums and sites. Local radio stations regularly broadcast the family's appeals and updates on the search. Disc jockeys urged listeners to be vigilant and report any information related to the disappearance. Print media published Zeb's photo on front pages, and editors wrote editorials stressing the importance of public support in searching for missing persons. National media coverage led to hundreds of calls from people across the country claiming to have seen Zeb or to possess information about his whereabouts. Not relying solely on the police investigation, the Quinn family hired private detective David Hubbard, a former FBI agent with 30 years of law enforcement experience. Hubbard specialized in missing persons cases and had a reputation for finding information overlooked by official investigators. His services cost $500 a day, plus expenses. The private detective conducted an independent investigation involving repeated witness interviews, analysis of physical evidence, and checking theories not fully explored by the police. Hubbard focused on Rowan Davis, thoroughly examining his biography, financial situation, and social connections. He uncovered several episodes in Rowan's past unknown to the police. The detective also investigated the possibility of human trafficking. Analyzing patterns of similar disappearances in the region, he established contacts with federal agents specializing in this problem. After 6 months of work, Hubbard gathered significant information but could not find direct evidence pointing to Zeb's location or the circumstances of his disappearance. In desperation, Denise Quinn began consulting psychics and mediums, hoping to gain information unavailable through traditional investigative methods. Although she was a religious woman, maternal love compelled her to try every possible way to find her son. Dozens of people claiming paranormal abilities reached out to the family. Most of them turned out to be charlatans, trying to profit from the parents' grief. However, several psychics provided information worthy of checking. A medium from California claimed to see Zeb in a dark place underground near water. A psychic from Florida spoke of a man with a scarred face who knew the truth about the disappearance. The family spent thousands of dollars consulting various psychics, but none of the predictions led to concrete results. Some mediums offered contradictory information, claiming Zeb was both alive and dead at the same time. The most convincing session was with medium Doris Stanton, who accurately described some details of Zeb's life unknown to the public. She claimed to feel his presence between two worlds and that he was trying to send a message about his location. Though working with psychics brought no practical outcomes, it gave Denise emotional support and hope that her connection with her son was not completely severed. The search for Zeb required the Quinn family to make significant financial sacrifices. Robert estimated that in the first year they spent more than $50,000 on various search activities. Expenses included paying the private detective, printing and distributing flyers, media advertising, consulting psychics, fuel for search expeditions, and rewards for informants. The family had to take a second mortgage on their home to finance the search. Robert worked overtime, and Denise took a second job. Despite emotional exhaustion, friends and relatives organized charity events to raise funds. The church community held several auctions and fairs, donating the proceeds to the Quinn family. Local entrepreneurs also contributed. A restaurant chain owner donated $10,000, and a car dealership offered free car service for the family's vehicle during the search. Despite financial difficulties, Zeb's parents did not regret the money spent. "We would spend everything we have and even more if it would help find our son," Denise said. In April 2000, the Quinn family announced a reward of $25,000 for information leading to Zeb being found alive or to the arrest of those responsible for his disappearance. The reward was increased to $50,000 in January 2001 and then to $100,000 on the anniversary of the disappearance. This was a huge sum for a middle-class family. The reward announcement was published in newspapers across the southeastern United States, on radio and TV stations, and on emerging internet resources. Information circulated through missing persons networks and law enforcement agencies. The reward triggered a significant increase in calls from potential informants. The family received dozens of calls daily from people claiming to have valuable information. Unfortunately, most calls turned out to be false alarms or attempts to get money without providing real information. The family had to carefully check every message, spending time and emotional resources. Several calls seemed promising and led to new search directions, but none resulted in a breakthrough. To this day, the reward remains unclaimed. The intense search took a heavy toll on the Quinn family's emotional and physical health. Constant stress, lack of sleep, and obsessive thoughts about their son's fate caused serious problems. Denise lost more than 45 pounds in the first few months after Zeb's disappearance. She suffered from insomnia, panic attacks, and depression. The family doctor prescribed antidepressants and sleeping pills. Robert tried to maintain outward calm, but loved ones noticed signs of emotional exhaustion. He started drinking more alcohol and avoiding social contacts. Their youngest daughter, Erin, was also affected by the family tragedy. Her academic performance declined. She became withdrawn and avoided friends. A school psychologist worked with her to cope with the loss of her brother. Family relations experienced serious strain. The parents dealt with grief in different ways and sometimes clashed over search methods and resource allocation. Friends and relatives tried to provide support, but many did not know how to help. Some avoided communicating with the Quinns, feeling awkward and unsure what to say. Zeb Quinn's disappearance deeply affected the Asheville community, especially youth and parents of teenagers. The case forced many to reconsider their sense of safety in a small town. Parents became more cautious, imposing strict rules on their children about late walks and contact with strangers. Many families bought mobile phones for their children, although this was expensive in 2000. Schools organized safety programs to teach students to avoid potentially dangerous situations. Police conducted a series of personal safety lectures in educational institutions. Local businesses started to pay more attention to hiring practices, performing thorough background checks on candidates. Waldra Driving Restaurant implemented new safety procedures for its staff. Zeb's story became a warning to young people that danger can lurk even in a familiar environment, and trust in colleagues and acquaintances should be cautious. The Asheville community rallied around the Quinn family, but the tragedy also bred an atmosphere of suspicion and fear that lingered for years after Zeb's disappearance. On January 17, 2000, exactly 2 weeks after Zeb vanished, his aunt Linda Quinn died. The 63-year-old woman lived alone in a small house in Asheville suburbs and worked as a librarian at a local school. Linda was the sister of Zeb's father and maintained close ties with the family. She had never married, had no children, and dedicated her life to books and caring for relatives. The cause of death was reported as a heart attack. Neighbors found Linda in her home after she missed 2 days of work. The coroner concluded death was due to natural causes with no signs of violence. The Quinn family was shocked by another loss. Linda's funeral was held on January 21st in an atmosphere of deep mourning. Zeb's parents struggled to cope with the double blow of fate. Initially, Linda's death was seen as a tragic coincidence. Stress from her nephew's disappearance might have contributed to a heart attack in the elderly woman with health problems. However, subsequent events in the late resident's house led to reconsidering this version and raised questions about a possible connection between Linda's death and Zeb's disappearance. While preparing Linda Quinn's house for sale, relatives discovered human remains in the basement. The discovery was made on January 28, 2000, by Linda's nephew, Steve Quinn. The remains were found in a homemade concrete sarcophagus in a corner of the basement, hidden behind stacks of old boxes and furniture. The sarcophagus was carefully disguised and might have gone unnoticed in a superficial inspection. Steve immediately called the police. The area was cordoned off, and the remains were removed for examination. Preliminary examination showed they were the skeleton of an adult man who had been in the basement for several decades. Finding human remains in the house of the aunt of the missing man shocked the family and the community. The question arose, was this a chilling coincidence, or was there a connection between the discovery and the disappearance of the young man? The police expanded the investigation to include Linda Quinn's death and the remains found in her house as part of the broader context of Zeb's disappearance case. The family had to reconsider their views about Aunt Linda, who had always seemed a quiet and harmless woman. Forensic examination of the remains found in Linda Quinn's house was conducted by specialists from the North Carolina State Laboratory under the supervision of forensic anthropologist Dr. Michael Harrison. Bone analysis revealed they belonged to a man aged between 30 and 40, about 5 feet 9 inches tall. Death occurred roughly 20 to 30 years ago, placing events in the 1970s. The cause of death could not be determined due to the condition of the remains. There were no signs of violent death, fractures, weapon injuries, or other trauma on the bones. The deceased's teeth were in poor condition, complicating identification by dental records. However, experts managed to create an approximate portrait of the man's appearance. DNA analysis of the remains was performed using the most advanced technology available at the time. Genetic material was degraded but sufficiently preserved for a DNA profile. Comparison with national missing persons databases showed no matches. The identity of the deceased remained unknown. Detective Daly initiated a search through missing persons records from 1970 to 1980 to find possible matches for the remains. Asheville police archives and surrounding counties were meticulously reviewed. Special attention was given to cases of disappearance of men fitting the age and physical characteristics. 17 cases matching the profile were registered during that period. Most were later found alive or their bodies discovered elsewhere. The most promising case was that of James Marin, a 36-year-old factory worker who disappeared in 1974. Marin lived in Asheville and vanished under mysterious circumstances. Marin's family was located and agreed to DNA testing for comparison with the remains. Analysis showed no biological relation between the remains and Marin's descendants. Other potential matches were also ruled out after detailed examination. The identity of the man buried in Linda Quinn's basement remained unknown. Investigation of Linda Quinn's life revealed several unexpected facets of a woman everyone regarded as quiet and reserved librarian. Financial records analysis showed Linda had substantial savings exceeding her official income. Over 20 years, she accumulated more than $100,000 on a librarian's salary. Neighbors reported frequent visits by unknown men, especially in the evenings. Linda explained their presence as pen pals or distant relatives. Examination of her personal belongings revealed extensive correspondence with inmates of various prisons. Linda maintained contact with dozens of convicted criminals, sending them money and packages. In her house, literature on serial killers, criminal cases, and forensic psychiatry was found. Linda's library contained hundreds of books on criminology and criminal psychology. Co-workers described Linda as a competent but peculiar person, showing unusual interest in crime books and often recommending such literature to readers. Investigators tried to establish a possible connection between Linda Quinn's death and her nephew Zeb's disappearance, but found no convincing evidence. The temporal proximity of the events, Linda's death 2 weeks after Zeb's disappearance, could be a coincidence. Stress from the family tragedy might indeed have triggered the heart attack. Medical examination confirmed Linda died of natural causes, with no signs of violence, poisoning, or other forms of deliberate harm. Phone record analysis showed no contact between Linda and Zeb on the day of his disappearance. Their last recorded conversation took place a week before the tragedy. Belinda's alibi on the evening of Zeb's disappearance was that she was at home. Neighbors saw lights on in her house, and the television stayed on late into the night. The remains found in Linda's house were from a much earlier period and could not be linked to Zeb's disappearance in 2000. Nevertheless, the discovery of human remains in a relative's house added another layer of mystery and heightened suspicion that the Quinn family might be involved in criminal activity. Finding human remains in Aunt Linda's house was another blow to the Quinn family already suffering from Zeb's disappearance. Robert Quinn was stunned by the dark side he uncovered in his sister's life. He insisted he never suspected Linda's strange hobbies or her connections with prisoners. Denise took the discovery as a potential lead in the search for her son, hoping that investigating Linda's death could shed light on Zeb's case. The family agreed to a full investigation of Linda's house, including excavations in the yard and thorough inspection of all rooms. They wanted to rule out the presence of other secrets. Their youngest daughter, Erin, was especially frightened by the discoveries at Aunt Linda's and required additional psychological support to cope with the shock of learning the truth about their relative. Friends and neighbors of the Quinn family were also shocked by the news about Linda. Many began doubting that they really knew the woman. The police conducted a thorough search of the house and property with advanced equipment to find additional evidence or human remains. A ground-penetrating radar was used to scan the basement, yard, and area beneath the house. The search revealed several anomalies in the soil that required further study. Excavations in the yard uncovered buried personal items belonging to unknown individuals: wallets, watches, and jewelry. All items were seized for examination and attempts at identification. Detailed records maintained by Linda listed visitors' names, dates, and brief descriptions spanning many years. Some names matched missing persons records from police archives. This finding led investigators to re-examine several cold missing persons cases. The search uncovered a stash of over $50,000 in cash hidden in various places in the house. The origin of the money remained unclear. Police called in criminal psychologist Dr. Robert Stevens to analyze Linda's personality based on the material found in her house. His analysis of prison correspondence showed Linda's unhealthy fascination with violent crimes and criminals. She maintained extensive communication with serial killers and other dangerous offenders. Linda's personal journals contained fantasies about committing crimes and detailed plans for hypothetical murders. These writings suggested serious mental health issues. Dr. Stevens concluded that Linda might have suffered from a personality disorder linked to a fascination with violence and death. According to the expert, she exhibited traits of a collector type of criminal, someone who gathers trophies from victims or maintains criminal contacts to satisfy pathological needs. However, the psychological profile could not definitively determine whether Linda was an active participant in crimes or merely an observer with unhealthy interests. Despite the thorough investigation into Linda's life and death, no direct connection between her activities and the disappearance of her nephew Zeb was established. The timeline of crimes found in her house related to a much earlier period than Zeb's disappearance in 2000. DNA analysis revealed no genetic material of Zeb among the evidence found in Linda's home. His personal belongings were also absent from Linda's collection. Witnesses confirmed Zeb rarely visited Aunt Linda and had no close relations with her. Their contact was limited to family holidays and occasional polite visits. Checks showed Linda had no ties to Rowan Davis or other individuals involved in Zeb's disappearance case. Medical examinations confirmed Linda died of natural causes, and there was no attempt to conceal information regarding her nephew's disappearance. Although no direct link was discovered between Linda Quinn's activities and Zeb's disappearance, the findings affected the investigation in several ways. The discoveries forced police to re-examine several cold cases that might have connections to Linda. This led to reopening investigations of 3 unsolved cases from the 70s and 80s. The findings created additional media sensation around Zeb Quinn's case. The horrors of the house in Asheville attracted national attention to the young man's disappearance. Increased public interest brought new witness statements and potential clues, though most turned out false. The Quinn family received even more sympathy, seen as victims not only of Zeb's disappearance, but also shocking revelations about their relative. Investigators had to divert resources to probe Linda's activities, temporarily slowing down the search for Zeb. By the 2010s, advances in forensic technology opened new opportunities for Zeb's case. Methods unavailable in 2000 allowed fresh examination of collected evidence. Improved DNA analysis could extract genetic data from samples previously considered unusable. Samples from Zeb's car were re-examined with new technology. Digital forensics advanced, although in Zeb's case, its use was limited by early 21st century technology. Mobile phones at the time stored minimal digital data. Facial recognition systems analyzed archival surveillance footage from the area of Zeb's disappearance. Computer programs identified faces that human eyes might have missed. Geographic information systems created detailed 3-dimensional terrain models to better analyze possible routes and hiding places for evidence. DNA databases expanded significantly, including millions of profiles. Periodic automatic searches matched unidentified samples from Zeb's case. In 2015, Asheville Police Detective Sarah Johnson initiated a full review of all physical evidence in Zeb Quinn's case using modern technology. Reanalysis of fingerprints from Zeb's car with advanced algorithms revealed several additional partial prints not detected in 2000. New DNA samples were extracted from clothing fibers and other materials found in the car. One sample belonged to an unidentified woman, confirming a female presence in the vehicle. Spectral analysis of the lipstick from the steering wheel provided more precise makeup composition. It was established that the lipstick came from a limited edition line sold exclusively in high-end cosmetic stores. Analysis of windshield glass shards revealed microscopic blood traces missed in the initial examination. DNA from these traces matched Zeb's profile. Fabric fiber analysis from hospital parking lot linked the fibers to a Brooks Brothers coat, an expensive garment inconsistent with the known social status of the case's figures. Computer modeling experts created a digital reconstruction of the likely events on the night of Zeb's disappearance. The model incorporated accurate data on timing, location, weather, and traffic flow in the suspected route area of Zeb and Rowan. Cell tower data showed Zeb's phone last location about 15 miles west of Asheville, matching the direction of their trip. Computer simulation of the car's trajectory from the last phone signal to the hospital uncovered several possible routes with estimated arrival times. Movement patterns suggested the vehicle likely stopped for between 30 minutes and 1 hour at an unknown location between Zeb's disappearance and the car's appearance at the hospital. Modeling also suggested that at least 2 people were in the car during the trip to the hospital, based on parking pattern and windshield damage. Modern experts on human trafficking analyzed Zeb Quinn's case in the context of known crime patterns in the southeastern U.S. Their analysis showed Zeb's disappearance matched methods used by traffickers, luring under the pretense of business deals, using a trusted person, and vanishing without a trace. Young men of conscription age were one of the traffickers' target groups, often forced into agricultural or construction labor. Asheville's location at the intersection of major highways made it a convenient transit point for trafficking operations. Federal experts identified several similar cases of young people disappearing in the region between 1998 and 2002, possibly tied to the same criminal network. However, lack of evidence of interstate or international transport complicated building this theory. Human trafficking usually leaves more visible traces, such as financial transactions and logistics operations. Criminal psychologists conducted detailed analysis of Rowan Davis's behavior to evaluate his potential role in Zeb's disappearance. His contradictory testimonies revealed patterns typical of people concealing important information or involved in crime. Rowan's psychological profile showed signs of antisocial personality disorder, including deceitfulness, lack of empathy, and manipulative behavior. His biography included episodes of dubious conduct, such as petty theft in adolescence and issues with authority. Analysis of his finances before and after Zeb's disappearance showed no significant changes, ruling out large payments for criminal involvement. Experts concluded that Rowan likely knew more about the events of that night than he admitted, but his exact role remained unclear. In 2019, the case gained new momentum, thanks to testimony from a man claiming to have seen Zeb alive several months after his disappearance. Robert Fisher, a farm worker from Tennessee, contacted police after watching a documentary about Zeb's case. He claimed that in the summer of 2000, he saw a young man matching Zeb's description working on a rural farm. According to Fisher, the young man went by the name Jake and seemed frightened. He avoided interaction with other workers and never talked about his past. Fisher stated that Jake disappeared from the farm in August 2000 after unknown people arrived. The farm's owner explained the disappearance by saying the worker returned home. Police attempts to verify this testimony were complicated by the sale of the farm and the owner's death. Employment records were lost. The Quinn family actively used social media to continue searching for Zeb and raise public awareness. The Facebook page dedicated to Zeb had over 20,000 followers. Regular posts sustained interest and attracted new participants in the search. Crowdsourcing investigation platforms enabled enthusiasts worldwide to study case materials and propose new theories. Mobile apps for missing persons included Zeb's info, expanding the potential witness base. Hashtags and viral content spread Zeb's story to millions who might possess vital information. Modern geolocation technologies helped create interactive maps of possible routes and search locations. Advances in genetic genealogy opened new opportunities to identify unknown DNA samples from Zeb's case. Unknown DNA profiles were uploaded to public genealogy databases searching for familial links. Genealogists constructed family trees for unidentified DNA profiles, trying to ID people present in Zeb's car. One unknown DNA sample showed family ties to people living in South Carolina, opening a new investigation direction. Attempts to reach potential relatives for DNA samples continued with limited success. Modern analysts examined cold case databases for similar cases possibly connected to Zeb. Computer algorithms identified several cases with similar circumstances within a 500-mile radius of Asheville. One notable case was the disappearance of a 20-year-old student from Virginia in 1999 under circumstances resembling Zeb's. Pattern analysis suggested a connection between several young men's disappearances in the region, pointing to a serial offender or organized group. Creating a unified database for similar cases revealed previously unknown links and patterns. Despite technological progress, Zeb's case faces fundamental limits. The absence of a body remains the main barrier to resolution. Without remains, proving death and crime circumstances is difficult. Evidence degradation over 24 years reduced quality of some DNA and other materials. Death or inaccessibility of key witnesses restricts new testimony opportunities. Landscape changes and development obstruct locating potential evidence or remains. Legal limits on surveillance technologies hinder more aggressive investigation methods. As of 2024, Zeb Quinn's disappearance case remains officially open in Asheville police records. After 24 years of intensive search and investigation, the young man's whereabouts are unknown. The case is classified as cold, meaning no active investigation but readiness to respond to new information. A specialized cold case unit periodically reviews materials using new technologies. Police's official position is that Zeb Quinn was a victim of a crime resulting in death. However, without a body, no formal death declaration was made. The NCIC, National Crime Information Center, database contains current info on Zeb as missing. His data is automatically cross-checked against new unidentified remains nationwide. The family receives periodic police updates on new developments, though no major breakthroughs have occurred in recent years. Rowan Davis remains a central figure in Zeb's disappearance, though never formally charged. After 2000, Rowan left Asheville, relocating to other states. He changed several residences and jobs, avoiding public attention. Journalists and private investigators failed to secure interviews in following years. Rowan consistently refused media interaction. In 2010, he was arrested for domestic violence, but the case was dropped after the victim refused to testify. This incident renewed attention on his possible involvement in Zeb's disappearance. Rowan died of a heart attack at 43 in 2018. His death closed the chance to gain new statements from the only person who knew Zeb's last hours. Before his death, Rowan made no confession or statements about Zeb's case, taking his secrets to the grave. Over 24 years of investigation, these undisputed facts about Zeb Quinn's case were established. Zeb left his job at Volvo Drive Restaurant on the evening of January 2, 2000, with Rowan Davis to inspect a used car. The last recorded signal from Zeb's mobile phone was at 9:47 p.m. from a tower 15 miles west of Asheville, matching the presumed route. Zeb's car was found on the Mission Memorial Hospital parking lot on the morning of January 3rd, with a windshield shattered from the inside and evidence of unknown individuals present. Rowan Davis gave 3 different versions of that night's events, each contradicting established facts. Physical evidence in the car indicated at least one unidentified woman and one unidentified man were present. Zeb vanished without a trace, leaving no personal belongings, money, or documents, ruling out voluntary disappearance. Massive searches involving hundreds of volunteers and rescue teams found no trace of Zeb or his belongings. Despite intensive investigation, key questions remain unanswered. The exact time and place of Zeb's disappearance are unknown. Events between the last phone signal at 9:47 p.m. and the car's arrival at the hospital at 1:30 a.m. remain a mystery. The motive for the crime is undetermined. Zeb had no known enemies, significant money, or valuables to attract criminals. The identity of unknown persons whose traces were found in the car remains unknown despite DNA and fingerprint analysis. Rowan Davis's role in that night's events is unresolved. Was he an accomplice, a witness, or a coerced victim? Zeb's body location remains unknown. Searches covered hundreds of square miles with no results. Any connection between Zeb's disappearance and findings at Aunt Linda's house remains unconfirmed. Zeb's parents, Robert and Denise Quinn, now elderly, continue to hope for answers. Denise, now 70, has devoted most of the past 2 decades to searching for Zeb. She became an activist for families of missing persons, helping other parents in similar situations. Robert, 73, officially retired but continues to work part-time to fund ongoing searches. The family spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on private investigators, rewards, advertising campaigns, and other search efforts. They sold their home and moved to smaller accommodation to free resources for the search. Their youngest daughter, Erin, now 42, has her own family but remains active in the search. She manages social media pages dedicated to Zeb and coordinates online activities. The family holds annual memorial events on Zeb's disappearance anniversary, maintaining public interest. Zeb Quinn's case influenced the development of missing persons investigation methods and is studied by law enforcement. Rowan Davis's contradictory testimonies are used in detective training to highlight the importance of scrutinizing witness accounts. Search methods developed during Zeb's case were applied in other missing persons cases in the region. The case illustrates the critical need for immediate resource mobilization after a disappearance and public involvement in search operations. Technological aspects of the investigation show forensic methods evolution over 24 years. The case became a classic cold case, periodically reviewed using new technologies. Zeb Quinn's disappearance left an indelible mark on Asheville's community and changed local attitudes toward safety. It contributed to creating a local missing persons family support organization offering help and resources to families in similar situations. Schools and youth organizations incorporated Zeb's story into safety training, emphasizing caution when interacting with strangers. Volvo Drive Restaurant, where Zeb worked, installed a memorial plaque in his honor and holds annual charity events supporting the search. Local media regularly cover the disappearance anniversaries, sustaining public interest and calls for new information. The case entered local folklore, spawning numerous conspiracy theories and urban legends. Technological advances continue opening new avenues for investigation. Artificial intelligence is used to analyze large data sets, uncovering previously missed connections in the case. Improved DNA analysis methods may allow extraction of additional genetic info from degraded samples in the future. Satellite technologies and high-resolution aerial photography might reveal landscape anomalies indicating possible burial sites. DNA databases keep expanding, increasing chances to identify unknown samples in the case. Genetic genealogy development could lead to breakthroughs identifying unknown people involved. Social networks and crowdsourcing platforms offer new ways to mobilize the public for information gathering. After 24 years, Zeb Quinn's disappearance remains one of modern America's most baffling unsolved mysteries. The case shows how an ordinary evening can turn into a lifetime tragedy for a family and community. Zeb's story is a stark reminder of everyday life's fragile safety and that danger can lurk in the most commonplace circumstances. An 18-year-old young man with plans for the future vanished in an instant, leaving only questions and pain behind. The case also demonstrates the power of family love and a mother's devotion. Denise Quinn became a symbol of a parent who never gives up searching for a missing child despite all obstacles and disappointments. Public support for the Quinn family shows the best qualities of humanity, the ability to unite in difficult times and help those in need. The mystery of Zeb Quinn's disappearance remains unsolved, but not forgotten. Every new day brings the possibility of new information that may finally answer questions tormenting the family and community for a quarter of a century. As long as the case remains open, hope lives. And somewhere out there, perhaps, someone knows the truth about what happened to Zeb Quinn on January 2nd, 2000. Maybe one day that person will find the courage to tell the truth and bring closure to one of the most haunting mysteries in American criminal history. Zeb Quinn remains officially listed as missing. His family continues to wait for answers. The community remembers the young man who dreamed of a future but disappeared on a winter night without a trace. Zeb's story became more than just a missing person case. It became a symbol for all unresolved disappearances, for all families still searching for their loved ones, and for all questions left unanswered in our complex and sometimes cruel world. Thank you for watching. Jeśli нужно, mogу оформить текст для озвучки в части больше структурированных абзацев или глав. Experts concluded that Rowan likely knew more about the events of that night than he admitted, but his exact role remained unclear. In 2019, the case gained new momentum when a man named Robert Fisher, a farm worker from Tennessee, came forward. He claimed to have seen a young man fitting Zeb's description working on a rural farm that summer. The man used the name Jake and seemed frightened, avoiding others and never speaking about his past. Fisher said Jake disappeared in August 2000 after unknown people arrived. Police struggled to verify this as the farm was sold and the owner had died, with no employment records preserved. The Quinn family used social media vigorously to continue the search, gaining over 20,000 Facebook followers dedicated to Zeb. They leveraged crowdsourcing platforms and mobile apps, spreading awareness globally. Viral hashtags and geolocation tech helped map potential routes and search areas. Advances in genetic genealogy led to attempts to identify unknown DNA from the case, linking one sample to families in South Carolina, opening new lines of inquiry despite limited results. Analysts found connections to other cold cases within 500 miles, including a similar disappearance of a 20-year-old student in Virginia in 1999. Patterns suggested possibly a serial offender or organized group revealed through combined databases. Yet fundamental limits remain. No body has been found, making proof of death and criminal circumstances difficult. Evidence has degraded after 24 years. Key witnesses have died or become unavailable, and changing landscapes hinder searches. Legal restrictions limit use of some modern surveillance methods. As of 2024, the case remains officially open but cold, with periodic reviews using new technologies. Police assume Zeb became a victim of a fatal crime, though no formal death declaration exists. Rowan Davis remains a central figure, never charged. He moved states, avoided media, and died in 2018 at 43, taking his secrets. Key facts. Zeb left work on the evening of January 2, 2000, with Rowan to inspect a used car. His phone last pinged at 9:47 p.m., 15 miles west of Asheville. The car was found at Mission Memorial Hospital parking lot early January 3rd with a shattered windshield and evidence of unidentified persons. Rowan's conflicting accounts contrast with physical evidence showing at least one unknown woman and man in the car. Zeb vanished without personal effects, suggesting no voluntary disappearance. Massive searches found no trace. The gap between last phone signal and car arrival remains a mystery. Motive is unknown. Zeb had no known enemies or valuables. The Quinns, now elderly, continue to hope for answers. Denise, 70, leads efforts as an activist for families of missing persons. Robert, 73, partially works to fund ongoing efforts. Their daughter, Erin, 42, manages social media and online coordination. They hold annual memorials, keeping public interest alive. The case influenced missing persons investigations, with Rowan's testimony used as training on verifying witness statements. early search methods were applied to other regional cases. It highlighted the need for rapid resource mobilization and public involvement. Technological advances over 24 years revealed new forensic possibilities. DNA databases expanded, satellite imaging could expose burial sites, and artificial intelligence aids pattern detection. Social media and crowdsourcing broadened community engagement. Zeb Quinn's disappearance endures as a haunting mystery, reminding how quickly a normal evening can become tragedy. His story symbolizes unresolved disappearances and the enduring strength of family love. Thank you for watching.